Hey toy collectors, welcome to another super exciting outrageous toy review. Today, Baby Skeletor and I are taking a look at the Masters of the Universe Origins Man-at-Arms. Special shout out to my girlfriend Shannon for finding this for me on the pegs at Walmart. I love the Odd to the Filmation cartoon show opening with this art at the top. His packaging tells you he can hold his accessories. And be posed in powerful battle positions. Here we've got Man-at-Arms out of the package, and he looks pretty much just like his original figure, except for that mustache. In many ways, I'm glad Mattel isn't just perfectly recreating the vintage figures, but I like this change more so than the all-new head sculpt on He-Man. Here's a vintage Man-at-Arms standing next to the new Origins Man-at-Arms. The faces are very similar, other than the mustache, which makes the new Origins Man-at-Arms match most of the supporting material much closer. Man-at-Arms wearing his green bodysuit with his baby blue belt and baby blue helmet. These designers came up with some pretty crazy stuff. I always wondered why he wasn't just flesh tone like He-Man. But I guess they just figured that he would be too much alike. So they went with the green body, which is a bold statement, I think. Starting with his head, you can see it's mostly that bluish gray. It's got some yellow details on it. They did paint his hair black back here, which is kind of nice. That was pretty much an unpainted detail on the vintage figure. It is interesting, though, that they went with black for the beard and the hair and the eyebrows when the Filmation fans think of him as having brown hair. I'm not sure if they were using a cue from the eyebrows on the vintage figure when they made that call. It looks totally fine. I have no real complaints from that. His head moves all the way around on the ball joint. He has a really good range of motion, which is kind of fun with the armor, too, because you can really use it to hide his head behind that front plate, which is what that's for. Like, that's what that's designed for. I do think that the team working on this brand saw what Masters of the Universe Classics was like, and will use that to their advantage. We're getting a lot of these vintage figure style figures, but we know that there's some exclusives coming based on 2000X, like the Keldor and Kronos figures. So it wouldn't surprise me if we eventually got a Man-at-Arms with his arm cannon and, possibly even a head that didn't have the helmet on with the ponytail. And I think that could be kind of cool. I could also see them eventually releasing Palace Guards, or a slightly more Filmation looking figure with the armor on both sides, the more uniform looking armor. So we have a shoulder that's removable here. That gives a swivel motion. There is a hinge built into that. He's got a hinge at the elbow there, which also can swivel. He's got a swivel and a hinge in the wrist. So he's got a decent articulation for a 5.5-inch style figure. And that's kind of the thing that's nice about these guys. That's the nice improvement over the vintage figures. Although, since I popped his head off, his head seems awfully wobbly. We've got a recreation of the vintage mace. I didn't compare it to it. It's very similar. It is a new sculpt, though. Slightly different, a little bit more detail to it, perhaps. And then, of course, he's got his arm guard here. This time it's two different pieces. Alright? It's not one giant pad that hinders his articulation like a vintage one would have been. So, again, here they're sort of taking some cues from the Classics line for Origins there. But those both are removable. His arm has all the same articulation. He's got that open hand going on there. He's got a swivel at the waist here, and again, this is also a pop-apart joint. He's got hips. They move out to the side pretty far. They can go forward and backwards somewhat. I find the range of motion out to the side much greater than the range forward and backwards. He's got knee joints that bend and swivel. He's got his armored plate here. There is boot cut articulation, and again, this is another point where the figure can pop apart. So you could give him other boots. So like if they ever made Palace Guards that had smooth boots, and you wanted that more smooth armored look, you could swap it out. And then, of course, he's got a hinge joint with rockers in the ankle. So really nice range of motion on this guy. After, 30-some years, almost 40 years, I guess, we have a vintage-style Man-at-Arms that could, like, bend his elbow. He looks great next to He-Man. I do think it's really funny how, in the original line, he was conceived to be, like, the same age as He-Man. You know, just another dude protecting Eternia. And then for the Filmation cartoon show, they decided to age him up and make him be old enough to be a parent. This helps them with storytelling and drama and things like that, to have characters of different ages. This let him be, like, a wiser character than another, you know, young, brash hero. His armor is removable. All this stuff is much more pliable than the vintage accessories, which I really like, and I hope that means the stuff will hold up really nicely. You know, we shouldn't have the brittle, busted tabs that happened to our 80s stuff, which I like. Because if you give this to a kid, I hope that they can, you know, play with the heck out of it and not bust up parts on it. Like all of Wave 1, Man-at-Arms comes with the Beast Barrage mini-comic that shows off characters from this wave. Got to do a little bit of world building. Out of that first wave of figures, I think Man-at-Arms is probably my second favorite. I really like the Teela figure. I think she's the best and most improved figure. And I kind of like this Man-at-Arms. He's basically just a recreation of the original without varying much at all. So I feel kind of weird saying he's a really great update. Thanks for watching this super exciting, outrageous toy review. Do Baby Skeletor a favor, hit that like and subscribe button.